today's session, we will discuss about the final and the last P of marketing mix, that is place. So, a lot of students do have confusion assuming that place in the context of marketing mix refers to the location where the marketer wants or intends to sell the products. Now, the word place does not literally means a physical location in the context of marketing mix, but place indicates here physical distribution, which means what are the mechanisms used by the marketer to create place utility and time utility. So place refers to creation of time utility and place utility. That means when we say time utility, it refers to ensuring the product reaches as per the needs and when the customer requires the product, because you can't instantaneously make product and give it to customer. You need to create a mechanism wherein the products can be stored, and as and when the need arises, the demand arises, the product can be moved from this buffer place where the product is stored to the point of consumption. So this creates the place and time utility. So when we say place, it basically means physical distribution, and physical distribution is defined as a set of activities which primarily concerned with handling, movement, and storage of goods from the point of origin to the point of consumption. So, all the activities undertaken by the marketer in ensuring that the product reaches from the point of uh, origin to the point of consumption is what constitutes physical distribution. And as you can see here, physical distribution does includes a lot of activities. So this is a physical distribution encompasses the supply chain, the distribution channel, and the logistics. So these are the three important constituents of a physical distribution: the supply chain, the channel, and the logistics. Now, when we say distribution channel, basically we are referring to a set of institutions which we generally also refer to as intermediaries who are required uh, for the purpose of ensuring that the product reaches the point of consumption. So this distribution channel includes your wholesalers, retailers, distributors, and other marketing institutions who promote the physical flow of goods and services along with the ownership title from producers to consumers. And it also covers your business users, because marketing is not just business to consumers, it can also be business to business. So distribution channel is responsible for the flow of goods along with the ownership. So that's what the distribution channel does. And of course, prior to distribution channel, there is also supply chain. So supply chain refers to a set of activities which are primarily concerned with control and flow of goods amongst the network of interconnected business intermediaries for the purpose of maximizing the profit. So supply chain primarily encompasses activities which involves all the major steps, right from procurement of raw material, then how that raw material reaches the manufacturing unit, how the processing is done, how the storage is done from the manufacturing facility, how the product is moved to distributors, from distributors to how the product is again uh, warehoused, how then it is again moved from warehousing facilities to various other market intermediaries. So all this set of steps constitutes your supply chain management. Physical distribution is only from point of manufacturing to the point of consumption, whereas supply chain is from where the manufacturer procures the raw materials. So even those steps are also included in the concept of supply chain. So that's what a supply chain means. Now, in the context of distribution channel, what role does logistics play and what exactly logistics are? That is something which we'll also discuss, but a little later. But first, let's focus on the distribution channel now and see how this distribution channel works. As you can see here, there are different means and ways of ensuring that how the product reaches from the manufacturing facility to the consumers. And depending on the requirement of the company, depending on the nature of the product, depending upon the available resources, a company can choose multiple channels in which at times there are multiple intermediaries involved. Sometimes there are very limited intermediaries involved. And in some cases, as you can see here, there are absolutely no intermediaries involved. So from the production facility, the product reaches either directly to the retail stores. We also have mechanisms wherein the product reaches from the production facility to directly to the consumers, because the model what you see here in this model on the slide, you have only those channels in which the product is reaching the origin to the retailer. Retailer is not the consumer. Retailer again sells the products. Again, there's a transfer of ownership, right? So this model represents only the connection between production and retailer. So when it comes to deciding how you want the product to reach the end user, to the final consumers, as I mentioned, you have the direct channel in which you have no intermediaries. So with the help of logistics, you ensure that the product reaches the consumer, right? So don't be under the impression that when you buy things online, the product is directly coming from the manufacturer to you. No, that's not the case. Online commerce sites like Flipkart, Amazon, they are also an intermediary. So producers, retailers do sell from these platforms. So they provide a marketplace wherein the seller or the manufacturer can directly meet the consumer. So it's a platform that connects the manufacturers, retailers, wholesalers to the consumer. So Flipkart and all other online e-commerce sites are also intermediaries. But in some cases, the product reaches directly from the manufacturing facility to the consumers. So in that cases, we can say that it's a direct channel in which there are absolutely no intermediaries are involved. In indirect channels, of course, you have a lot of intermediaries involved. So the product reaches through multiple layers and then finally it reaches the end consumer. Then you have dual distribution channels in order to ensure that the marketers capture the market quickly and they reach to the leaps and bounds and penetrate into the entire geographic locations of the country. They sometimes use a dual distribution network. So here the dual distribution network is in the form of a combination which is combining both direct and indirect. But sometimes when we say dual distribution, it also refers to a combination of online as well as offline channels. So these are the different types of channels of distributions which a marketer can use. This is further broken down into different levels, as you can see here. So you have zero level in which there are no intermediaries involved. And again, you have a first level also in this, in which there is a producer who procures the goods directly from the retailer who procures the goods directly from the producers, and from the retailers, the customers do buy the products. And then in level two, you have another additional intermediary, wholesalers. So wholesalers, they do buy in bulk and they sell to the retailers. Now distributors have a bigger responsibility. Distributors generally are responsible for ensuring that the product is available in a certain geography, in a certain state, or in a certain region. So they have the responsibility of ensuring that they try to attract more and more wholesalers so that the product can be sold across locations in a particular state or region. So distributors can be considered as a major channel intermediary who has the responsibility of ensuring that they have more and more wholesalers under their belt. So distributors are usually sometimes are based on country, so they are country specific. For the entire country, there will be one distributor. Sometimes for entire state, there will be one distributor. Sometimes for regions, there will be one distributors like South India, North India. So these distributors are responsible for a bigger region, not for a small location like wholesalers. So that's the difference between them on the wholesalers. Now, this is what a supply chain looks like. As I mentioned, you supply chain is a much broader term. Supply chain includes both your physical distribution as well as the logistics. So this is in case of a computer, right? As you can see here, the manufacturers of computers also need inputs. So they also need raw materials. So obviously, these raw materials sometimes are procured from different parts of the world. So you need to have a varied supplier network who's capable of giving you all the essential components as and when required by. So there are suppliers of the raw material, there are component supplier. So using this supplier network is what the manufacturer produces. In fact, Dell as a company itself does not manufacture us. Even the manufacturing is done by an outsourcing partner. Dell only does the marketing. So even that outsourcing partner who does the manufacturing is also a part of supplier network. So in case of distribution channel, there is no supplier network. Distribution channel commences from producers, ends on the consumer. But supply chain also takes into account how producers procure this raw materials and various components, which would help them in manufacturing the product. So supply chain activities from the acquisition of raw material to the delivery of finished goods. It encompasses all these steps and processes. So it's a very comprehensive process. On the other hand, when we say logistics, logistics is primarily concerned with managing, designing, and improving the flow of resources between the point of origin and the point of destination. So logistics primarily includes your transportation, your warehousing facility, your storage facility. All these are part of the logistics. In the absence of logistics, flow of goods becomes extremely challenging, extremely difficult. So logistics also play an important role. So we can't overlook logistics. So without logistic, both supply chain is also not possible, distribution is also not possible. So logistics do play an instrumental role in ensuring the entire supply chain is intact. So some of the important constituents or some of the important processes which are part of logistics management includes order management. So order management is a process of dealing with purchase requests of customers. So this include order entry, picking, packing, shipping, billing. So we have various softwares developed by companies like Oracle, which is exclusively designed for this purpose, for order management, right? So something which you people are also familiar with is placing order online. So the moment you buy something online, what happens in the background? All that action that take place. So the part of that action, the first step is order management, wherein the software will automatically confirm the order what you have placed. But in the background, the order management software also does a lot of things, right? So which includes communicating to different departments which are part of the order management. So where the product is placed in the warehouse, who will pick up, who will pack, who will ship, who will bill. So all these responsibilities are given to separate uh, departments. So all these departments collectively work as an order management team. The next important component of logistics management is the storage, for which warehousing plays an important role. Once the stock is procured and assembled, the next important process is to preserve the goods systematically, for which you need proper storage and warehousing. And all your e-commerce companies do this function also. They also do the warehousing. Most of them have very big warehouses. In fact, Amazon has had recently opened a couple of years back the biggest warehouse in Asia in Hyderabad. So Amazon not all the time picks up the product from the seller and delivers it to you. In some of the situations, the sellers are instructed to deposit all their goods in Amazon's warehouse. So the moment you place an order, the order is not actually delivered by the seller, it is delivered by Amazon. It is fulfilled by Amazon or Flipkart, because all these products are stored in the centralized warehouse of Amazon, right? So in Amazon warehouse, they also deploy both humans and technology. So both work in tandem to ensure that the order is delivered to you as soon as possible. So this process of warehousing and storing of goods allows for a quick availability of product to the customers and this results in stability of prices and also enables manufacturer to regulate the production. So manufacturer can definitely create buffers. He need not put stress on the production facility, because as and when required, the product can be manufactured and stored, and this storing and warehousing allows the manufacturer uh, to ensure that the product is available in sufficient quantity and number. And the third important constituent of logistics management is the transportation, the manner in which the product is delivered to various intermediaries involved. So, how the product reaches, uh, in fact, not the products, I would rather say raw materials. So, how the raw materials are transported from the origin to the manufacturer, for which you have different methods of transportation, whether it is air, water, rail. So, various methods of transportation depending on the nature of the product, depending on the requirement, is deployed. So, the manufacturer uses varied means of transportation facilities depending on the need and the nature of the product. So, the main purpose of transportation is to enhance the value of the goods by creation of place utility. So, ensuring that the product reaches the right place at the right time is what the transportation team is engaged in. And some of the other important aspects which are part of your logistics also includes inventory control. So, what is this inventory control? It's a process of monitoring and coordinating supply, storage, distribution, and recording of materials in order to ensure adequate supply without excess supply. So, inventory control is basically you're monitoring the flow of stock, flow of goods, because you don't want to end up being in a situation where you have stocked up too many products for which there is no demand. On the other hand, you should also ensure that you don't have inadequate products being stored wherein you are not able to meet the demand itself. So you have to maintain an appropriate inventory turnover ratio. So depending on the seasons, depending on the past sales data, depending on the demand, you should ensure that you're procuring adequate inventory. So shortage and excess inventory both are can lead to disastrous impact on the cash flow, on the liquidity of the organization. So inventory control is also the last component of logistics. So logistics primarily combines four aspects. One is order management, warehousing, transportation, and inventory control. So all these four processes is part of your logistic management, which helps in the flow of resources between the point of origin and the point of destination. So this is what your so-called logistic does. Now, another important question that needs to be answered by the marketer is how to choose the most appropriate distribution channel. Should I go with distributor, retailer? Should I go with distributor, wholesaler, retailer? Should I go direct? Should I go online, or should I go for conventional brick and mortar, that is offline? Or should I use a combination of both? Should I follow a hybrid channel? How do you decide all this? On what basis do you make such decisions? The answer is the choice of distribution channels depends on a host of factors, and these factors are broadly classified into four important categories. The first one is called the product factors, and as the name itself suggests, it has to do something with the nature of the product. So product factors takes into account the nature of the product, the quality, the features, the peculiarities of the product. So keeping in mind all these products is what uh, a marketer decides, right? And of course, there are other factors, but yes, product factors play an important role. So you need to have sufficient resources, you need to have technology to ensure that the product, which are quite, I would rather say, perishable in nature, right? So certain products you need to have facilities which supports transportation of perishable products. So in case of most of the perishable products, which channel to be used? In case if you're selling expensive goods, which channel to be used? So it all depends. When we say physical nature, uh, anyways, these are the factors. So we'll discuss one by one. So when we say physical nature of the product, what are you referring to? So the answer is the choice of suitable channel for distribution also depends on the nature of product. When we say physical nature, it signifies the perishability, the sizes, the weight. For example, perishable products like milk, butter, cheese, fish, all this should have a short distribution channel. You can't prolong, because the more intermediaries you have, the more right channels you add, that will have severe impact on the quality of the product. So you need to have a shorter duration in case if your products are perishable. Otherwise, the product will get decayed or spoiled very fast by the time it goes through all the levels of distribution channels. That is something which should be avoided, especially your vegetables, your dairy products, your meat products should have a shorter distribution channel. And further, if the size and weight is very large, for example, in case of big industrial products like boilers, grinders, these are all big industrial products, right? Which we don't even probably see. Some of us have not even seen them how they look. So in this case, the direct channel is more suitable in order to eliminate the chances of damage and transportation cost, right? So in case of car, right, you can go and watch car in the showroom, right? So the car would have come from manufacturer to the distributor to the final retail outlet. But you can't follow this in case of industrial machinery. You can't have a showroom to display industrial machinery because the nature itself of the machinery is so huge that you can't accommodate such things in showrooms. Therefore, you can't have a retailer selling industrial machinery. So it has to be directly B2B, business to business. So you need to use a direct channel. So that's the first important point, that product factor. First one is the physical nature. So depending on what is that you're selling, what are the attributes and features of your product, you should choose which one you want, whether you want a shorter distribution channel or whether you want a longer distribution channel. So it depends on the product nature. The second one is called the technicality of the product. Now, when we say technicality of the product, sometimes the product is very complex in nature and it's very difficult to understand as to how the product gets operated, because you need an expert who can explain you how to handle the product, because as an individual you might not be able to do it on your own. So the handling of the product, the usage of the product might require some sort of a special training and expertise. So in a situation like this, in a situation where the product is very technical in nature, such products are usually sold directly by the producer to the consumer. So what happens here, when you place an order, the producer will directly sell a the product producer will directly ship the product to your house, and the moment the product reaches your house, you will have a technician who will come and do the installation. He will explain he will explain all the features to you. Then he will also train you how to use the product. So this is something what is done in case of the product is too technical in nature. However, the producer, as I mentioned, should have a dedicated team of sales engineer and technicians. And this usually happens, don't, because sometimes, when you buy a TV or a washing machine, in that case also one technician will come and install. So don't get confused with TV and washing machine. TV and washing machine are definitely not technical products. Even a small kid can easily operate washing machine and television. So I'm referring, we say technicality of the product, I'm basically referring to industrial equipment, right? Not home appliances. Home appliances definitely are not technical products. So when we say technicality of the product, it basically refers to product which is used in the context of business and industry. So business and industries use sophisticated robotic machines, manual machines, for which you need definitely a relevant training. You just can't straight away start using the product. For such products, definitely you need to have a direct uh, channel, right? From producer to direct the consumer. So in consumer, when I say consumer, I'm not referring to people like us. I'm referring to business consumers, right? So B2B. So technicality of product, you need to have a short distribution channel. Now, product range. What do you mean by product range? Product range basically refers to the variety the marketer is offering, right? Some of the products what we buy, especially in the case of fast moving consumer goods, how depth and uh, kind of width and depth the product has, it's too comprehensive, right? So in such a situation where the product range is quite vast, quite in depth, it is advisable to distribute the product through conventional channel, which includes your distributors, wholesalers, retailers. But in case the producer offers a very let's say a narrow product range, in that case also you can use wholesalers and retailers. But in case if the product has a very wide range, in-depth range, right? In that case, the ideal solution would be to have an exclusive outlets itself, right? Which means you have your own outlet. So from your manufacturing facility, the product goes directly to your own outlet, or it can be a franchisee-based outlet also. Because the product is so vast that you need a separate retailing platform to display and to convey to the customers that this is the kind of assortment what you're offering. But in case if you have limited product range, then just the wholesaler and retailers will do the job. But for such a big exclusivity, definitely you need to have a dedicated retail outlet, and that's what HUL does. It has its own range of Lakme outlets. So when you go to Lakme outlets, you get to buy the entire product range of Lakme products. But HUL also uses the conventional wholesaler and retailer platform also. But yes, in case if you have too much of width, too much of assortment, too much of varieties, then ideally it is recommended to have an exclusive retail outlets would market your products. If the product range is too vast, then have an exclusive retail showrooms. In case if it is not, then use the conventional wholesaler retailer platform. Now, product pricing. On the basis of product pricing, the logic is simple. Product with low unit prices, like your goods which you consume daily, salt, sugar, wheat, rice, all this, are generally consumed on a very large scale, right? And therefore, it should be sold through middlemen, through a comprehensive channel, through a conventional channel. The reason is the producer cannot bear the cost of direct selling. So therefore, it becomes very, I would rather use the word stupidity to directly sell a packet of sugar directly to consumer, because unnecessarily you have to appoint a lot of salesmen, and you don't need a salesmanship to sell a product like sugar or salt. So it makes no sense. So therefore, middlemen will do the job, right? So product pricing is low. You don't have to use a direct channel. Indirect channel is always advisable. On the other hand, if the product what you're selling is quite expensive, uh, it's a very premium product. In such a cases, yes, follow the small distribution channel in which the manufacturer and the retailer is involved, only two entities. For example, gold, silver. I mean, I'm sure you not have come across somebody called as a wholesaler and distributor for gold. Most of the retailers who sell the gold, they directly procure it from the raw material supplier, and they have their own labor who can make different designs of jewelry, and they sell it through their own retail outlet. So absolutely, there are not many intermediaries involved in case of the product pricing is too expensive. So these are the product factors. Now let's move on to market factors. So market factors basically represent the nature of the market. So when we say nature of the market, what is the market made up of? And the answer is market is by and large made up of consumers and your intermediaries. This is what market is made up of. So take into account the requirements of your middlemen, your intermediaries. Take into account the requirements of the customers. So taking into account these two important entities is what constitutes market factor. Now, the first aspect to consider in case of market factor is the composition of target market. So, who are your target customers? If your target customers are very large in number, the product what you're selling is to a mass market, then definitely this requires the services of middleman. On the other hand, in case if you have a very limited set of customers, you don't have a huge base of customers, in that case, you can directly go for direct marketing, because selling it through middleman absolutely does not make sense. If you have a very limited, confined, choosy set of customers, then there's no point in having such a depth of marketing channel. Further, if the target customers are industrial or commercial establishment, which means they are B2B, business to business, then goods can be sold directly or through agents. As industrial buyers, they buy in large quantities, and producer can easily establish a direct contact with them. So whether you are selling to individual consumers or whether you are selling it to business consumers, so depending on that, you have to choose your distribution channel, right? Availability of channel at times itself becomes quite challenging task, because in case if there are no middlemen who are interested in selling your product, then of course you will have a very challenging time. So that also something which you have to take into account. The choice of channel also is influenced by the availability of distribution partners. On account of non-availability of desired type of middleman, producers may set up self-owned distribution system. So if nobody are willing to sell, then you have to only sell it through your own outlets. So that's the only option available. Some common reasons for shortage of middlemen include the attitude of middlemen towards the producer policies. Maybe you're not giving them good commission or not good credit terms, right? And that's the reason the middlemen are disinterested to sell your product. And the middlemen sometimes may also have fear whether the product will click or not. Why unnecessarily to stock up the product? So existing products which that are already available in the market, right? You have made a similar kind of product. So sometimes middlemen will think already I'm selling the same kind of products. So again, procuring it similar kind of product will unnecessarily create the fear of handling competitive products. So in that case, also middlemen may avoid. So in case if the channel is not available, you have no choice. You have to just think of whatever you can do from your side as a marketer to ensure that the product reaches consumers. And you know what happened during pandemic also. Most of the producers who had already made the movie was ready. It was already in the release stage, and some of the movies were in the post production stage. And all the producers were in the panic mode because they were sitting on huge investment which they were not able to encash it because the channel of distribution was not available. All the cinema theaters, movie theaters, they were always shut. And unfortunately, right, these producers who had made all this movie had to sell it at a little lower price to all your online streaming platform. So online streaming platform emerged as an ad hoc, as an emergency platform for all the movie producers. So far, it was never done in the past on a large scale, but this time, during because of the pandemic, the movie producers will forced to distribute their movies using online streaming platforms. Some of them did incur the losses, but that was not important for them. What was important was to encash their investment, and some of them did also make a profit by releasing it on online platform. So all of a sudden, the need arose because the regular channels were not available for them to distribute. So availability of channel also plays an important role. Buyers' behavior. So this is from the perspective of customers. So understanding customer needs and what is the criteria they use for buying also is an important factor in the distribution channel. So sometimes buyers may or may not intend to apply time and effort on shopping. So buyers, each type of buyer, they have their own expectations. Some people want it quickly. Some people don't want to waste their time going to a shop, talking to a salesman, right? So it's all time consuming for them. But some do prefer, right? Some customers do prefer offline platform. They want to go see, touch, feel the product, talk to the salesman. They want to get that shopping experience. Uh, so sometimes a customer wants all the products to be available in the same place. Sometimes the customer also looks at the credit facilities, whether the credit card is accepted, whether the online payment is accepted. So depending on all this, also you can take a call. By and large, the younger generation prefers online shopping, but there are a lot of customers who don't believe in the concept of online shopping. They prefer the traditional brick and mortar shopping. They want to visit the store, right? So they want to avail the discounts and offers, see, feel, touch, and then buy. So you need to understand that also. You cannot just have a preconceived notion that everybody likes online shopping. Everybody likes only offline shopping. So you have people who belong to both these So apart from how the customer responds and how he perceives a particular channel of distribution, what is also important is the government restrictions, because sometimes there are products on which government puts a lot of restrictions. They cannot be sold on all the platforms. So government puts a set of guidelines as to how to buy, where to buy, when to buy. Even the timing is also decided by the government, especially in the case of liquor, right? In a state of Karnataka, yes, it's available more widely. The accessibility is good. Everybody who has a license can sell liquor. But in some states, liquor is available only through government owned facilities. So you can't buy liquor from anywhere you want it. So there are legal restrictions put up by the government. So in case if your product comes under those category of products which is regulated by the government, then you have to adhere to the government guidelines, right? Can you buy medicines from any store? The answer is no, it's not possible, because in order to sell medicines, you need to have a license. Only pharmaceutical or pharma stores, which we popularly refer to as druggist and chemist, are authorized to sell it. You can't buy medicines in an ordinary provision store. They don't have the license, they don't have the expertise to sell. Likewise, if you want to buy arms and ammunition, for all this you require licensing. Anybody just cannot sell arms and ammunition just like that. So that is also a factor. Now, when we say institutional factors primarily focuses on the needs of the intermediaries. In fact, market factors encompasses both a bit of intermediaries and customers. On the other hand, institutional factors primarily focuses on the needs of the intermediaries. So in case of new products, special attention is required. A newly launched product needs more aggressive promotion, more aggressive advertisement, and this can also be taken up by the intermediaries. So intermediaries have the ability to promote the product, right? So in most of the cases, you would have visited, I'm sure, supermarkets, and in supermarkets, a certain type of product is given special attention. It is placed in the center of the store, or the entrance of the store. So some sort of arrangement is done to ensure that the arrangement captures the attention of the customer. So all this is done for the promotion, right? And the marketer need to pay the supermarket management for promoting their product. They don't do it just free of cost, right? So some sort of a commission incentives is given to the intermediary in order to promote the product. So in this way, intermediaries are profitable for the producers and the marketer, as they take up the task of promoting the product independently on their own, or in sometimes it is jointly done by the marketer as well as the intermediaries. And in most cases, the private brands are promoted by the retailers and wholesalers in order to seek a lot of profits. So sometimes the entire, I would rather say, burden of promotion is passed on to promoters and the retailers. And for doing this, they get a hefty profit share or commission. So that is also an important factor. How well the intermediaries can promote your product. What is their ability to promote your product? So you need to consider that also. Most of the online platforms like Flipkart, Walmart, they do this function of promoting the products, right? The moment you log in to an e-commerce website page, you see set of products, slides will be moving. So how do they decide that? The answer is that is decided based on the marketer's requirement. If a marketer, let's say Xiaomi has come up with a new phone, so Xiaomi pays hefty money to Flipkart to put the product on the front page of the website, and to promote the product on its website. So Flipkart, since the website is accessed by millions of users, so many people have also downloaded the app. So imagine the kind of money what Flipkart makes. But forget about the kind of money what Flipkart makes. We have to think from the perspective of the marketer. So you're getting a platform wherein the platform is accessed by millions of people. And as a marketer, that is what I want. I want a platform which has a mass appeal where my product can easily reach without any hurdle. So therefore, at the time of selecting distribution channel, you should also see whether the intermediary is capable of promoting your product or not. Another factor is the financing capacity. So when we say financing capacity, it basically means The retailer should provide merchandise to customer on a credit directly, right? So in most of the cases, when you go and visit, especially the electronics and home appliances stores, let's say like Reliance Digital or Girias, they do provide credit facility, which means for a lot of home appliances and electronics, we do buy them on EMIs. If you want to buy a television, you don't want to, right? You don't, probably in most of the cases, you will not have money to buy the entire product. You don't have money to make the complete upfront payment. So definitely you would like to use a credit facility. So who gives this credit facility? Is it given by the wholesaler? Is it given by the manufacturer? The answer is no. It's given by the retailer, the point of sale. So most of the retailers sometimes they have their own credit schemes wherein they provide the credit to the customer. Sometimes most of the retailers, and this is something which is very common, they tie up with various financial institutions. So they'll tie up with credit card companies, they'll tie up with fintech companies, they will tie up with traditional banking organizations. So these traditional banking organization, credit cards, fintech companies, they provide credit to the customers. But the retailer is just a facilitator. It's trying to connect these two entities together. And at times, credit cards also gives you 0% interest, cashbacks, all those facilities are given to lure the customers, to persuade the customer to buy more and more products, especially during the festive seasons. So as a manufacturer, I also want to see whether my intermediaries on their own or with the help of uh, financial companies can give credit to customers. Because if they can provide credit to customers, obviously customers will buy, the consumption will shoot up. And these days, as you're aware, even all your online e-commerce platforms, they have so many credit facility options. You can go for credit card, even for debit cards, they are giving EMIs. That is something which was introduced by your e-commerce companies. Now, e-commerce companies also have a new option called buy now, pay later, right? So you go to any e-commerce platform, you get this option, buy now, pay later, which means they are giving you a direct credit facility. And another factors to be taken into account is the after sale service. So if the after sale service, especially in case of automobile companies, right, wherein you have to service your car or bike, whether the retailer can take up this on his own, whether the retailer can provide an efficient, flawless after sale service, because after sale service is very key, because the after sale service determines whether the customer will spread a good word about your product or not. If the after sale service is pathetic, terrible, the customer will not come back. And most importantly, the customer will spread negative feedback. So this plays an important role. So is your channel partner capable of providing after sale service? That's the question to be asked. And finally, the channel cost. So what is the expense? How much commission are you paying to each of the intermediary? So that also needs to be taken into account, because the more intermediaries you involve, you need to have a bigger budget. And this will also shoot up the product pricing. So that also has to be taken into account. And finally, before we wind up today's session, let's quickly run through the organizational factor. Organizational factors are those factors which emphasizes on the marketer himself, because the previous one was based on intermediaries. Prior to that, it was customer. Prior to that, it was product. Now, when we say organizational factor, it is directly talking about the capability and resources what the marketer and the manufacturer has. So, organization or company factor signifies the nature of business, the marketing know-how, the managerial competence and expertise, the management style, policies. So, all this are taken into account. So, if you're a company with vast financial resources, you have too much of resources, you're not financially weak, then of course you can do wonders. You can have a lot of intermediaries involved, and even you can set up your own outlets by investing a lot of money in them. But in case if you're financially weak, then you have no option but to be dependent totally on the intermediaries. Your reputation also matters. If you're a well reputed firm, then selling becomes like a cakewalk. You don't have to, your channel partners need not break their head. In fact, they'll be begging for you to give your products to them, because you're already an established brand. Middlemen need not do any kind of marketing and promotion for you. Your brands have already a good customer base. There is a lot of brand loyalty. In that case, you will easily get the middleman to do the marketing. And finally, the marketing policies. So it all depends on your marketing policy also, whether you uh, want a distribution channel or not, what is the role of distribution channel. All this is defined in your marketing policy. So these are various factors that need to be taken into account before deciding the type of distribution channel.